the one thing this case is not, it is not a DNA case, pure and simple.
As of 2022, John Ramsey is engaging in a media campaign. A campaign to get evidence that is in the possession of the Boulder PD, released to an independent laboratory, for further DNA testing. Team Ramsey commentators point to John's apparent willingness for further testing as a sign of his innocence. In other words, if John was guilty, why would he push for more testing and risk incriminating himself? To True Crime Oracle, John's media campaign is just another reverse psychology stratagem. First, we believe that John is fully aware that any DNA test results will probably be uninformative, just like the local 9 News segment reported. The larger national news media has deceived the general public into a false belief that DNA can solve the case. Second, John is also probably aware that it is unlikely that the evidence in the possession of the Boulder PD will actually be released. The United States has rather strict laws regarding jurisdiction. In order for the evidence to be released, the Boulder PD would have to willingly agree. Again, this is unlikely. If John was sincere about his eagerness to identify the killer, then he would have allowed the authorities to exhume JonBenet for re-examination. We have a fairly good idea why he does not want JonBenet's body examined.
Lacey ordered new tests in 2007 and 2008 on JonBenet's long johns and nightgown. It's those tests that led Lacey to exonerate the Ramseys.
I can tell you in my experience,
A decision that confounded Troy Ide, a former U.S. attorney who was on the Ramsey task force appointed by Governor Owens.
there's a real danger whenever you say, okay, we've looked at this and we've categorically determined something.
The experts who reviewed the DNA test data for 9 News and the Daily Camera question Lacey's exoneration on multiple fronts. First, the DNA profile Lacey said belonged to the killer may not be the profile of a single person.
There is a reasonable chance that what has been attributed to a single individual actually represents DNA from multiple individuals that has been sort of hobbled together into a single profile.
Well, it's a rather obvious point, but I mean, if you're looking for somebody who doesn't exist because it's actually several people, it's a problem.
And as for the DNA on the long johns, heralded by Lacey as conclusive, our experts believe those 2 spots are mixtures of genetic material from more than 2 people.
It looks and appears to me to be at least 3 individuals. And so that there's a mixture here that's not just a single profile.
Which is precisely what Mary Lacey knew before she exonerated the Ramseys. This report, obtained by 9 News and the Daily Camera, went to Lacey's office 3 months before she cleared the family. Of the 2 spots on JonBenet's long johns, the report says it's likely more than 2 people contributed to the mixtures. And after eliminating JonBenet's DNA, the remaining DNA contribution should not be considered a single source profile.
She knew, based on your investigation, that this DNA wasn't necessarily from one person, and that it in fact was potentially accumulated DNA. She knew it at the time, and why she used this evidence to clear the Ramsey family then, a clearance that has continued because it's on the public record through today, is something I can't explain, and she should explain.
Lacey's exoneration letter said she had concluded that foreign DNA on JonBenet's clothing could not have gotten there inadvertently, something our experts say is just not true. They say there are plenty of reasons the DNA on JonBenet's clothing could be innocent, reasons that have nothing to do with murder.
It is quite clear that Lacey did not have the grounds to exonerate the Ramseys. because she clearly abused her public office, Laci should essentially be considered a member of Team Ramsey. The next time that an intruder theory supporter claims that DNA has exonerated the Ramseys, we insist that you confidently point out how false this is. As we have said in previous content, at True Crime Oracle, we know that press conferences do not exonerate people. We know that only hard evidence can exonerate people. The Ramseys were not exonerated. Period. To claim that the Ramseys were exonerated by DNA is basically just more Team Ramsey propaganda.
The lab that Laci used later provided her with reports showing that the unknown DNA on the Long Johns was likely part of a mixture of genetic material from more than 2 people, but that was never before made public until now. She issued her exoneration in spite of the confusing DNA results, an exoneration the family still points to as proof they were not involved. Just last month, Ramsey lawyer Lynn Wood used the exoneration to challenge news reports suggesting it could be a family member who killed JonBenet. In a tweet, Wood said, in 2008, Boulder DA publicly exonerated them and apologized. DNA evidence conclusive. End of story. And in another tweet, he said, this is a DNA case, plain and simple.
No, it is not. It's clearly not. We have a question profile that is very low level in terms of the amount of DNA. The quantity of DNA is very small. The profile is extremely complex. The one thing this case is not, it is not a DNA case, pure and simple.
She knew it at the time, and why she used this evidence to clear the Ramsey family then, a clearance that has continued because it's on the public record through today, is something I can't explain, and she should explain.